y'all had a chance to look at did y'all look at the minutes before?
Did you get this finished?
I did.
Oh, I did.
I wrote.
Still out of place, should I?
Yes, I found my chair.
Move your flag.
Like you're sleeping on the opposite side of the bed.
It's like when you go to the drive-in, you always park where you normally park.
No, I
Sorry,
don't
that's
believe
just-
that.
Oh, no problem.
Those are nice.
Oh, yeah.
Makes it a whole lot easier, because then I only have to print maybe 5 agendas for everybody. That's it. That was my whole dilemma today, trying to get all the things done and send them, because our internet wasn't working at work.
Yeah.
Everybody like the minutes?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
JC?
He's still trying to get in.
I second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed? That's unanimous.
So if you look at your treasurer's report is not going to have the checks signatures for today, which is
Yes.
Kim Campbell, Kim Campbell and Natalia Library. The Natalia Library fee is for the vendor's fee that we're going to be doing out in, the Blue Bottle Festival. And then Joe Cardenas, he's missing a check apparently. And after doing an investigation, he did not receive November's check, so I canceled it through the bank, and we're going to reissue him another one.
I figured that's what you did.
Did that cost us $30? Nope. That's only because of the lady like this. What? The lady like this.
Yeah. We have
She's
that.
officially met every single one of you, so we're good.
What was that?
She's met every one of you.
Is that wrong?
Roxanne, yeah.
Nicely. Very helpful. Cynthia, here, security is very helpful.
Where is the treasurer's report? It was in the first email.
Not the one with the minutes. The ones with the one with the agenda.
When does the CD
I
come?
don't know what the agenda. June. That's very impressive, very positive. Oh, there. We got $123,000 in our deposit.
I noticed the balances are really helping.
So if nothing else should be coming in, right? Everything should be paid, maybe some small stuff.
Yeah, there'll be little stuff like that.
And with all the construction that we're gonna have paying, then I'm not gonna worry about moving money around to make sure.
Yes. The check for the generator,
Has been mailed. He's supposed to be sending me a proposal on a privacy fence and a chain link fence.
okay, while we're on that subject, do y'all agree with me that we'd rather have a chain link so you don't have something to hide behind? That way if there's an issue, people can see it.
And do any of you know somebody that can do a chain link fence chance, maybe see if they could do the
Generator
generator.
George does.
That way maybe he can do the generator plus the chain link that we're gonna put around the helipad.
That's the only thing left on the helipad. To get the fence around it.
I don't know anybody, so.
Yeah, I could charge maintenance.
To him. Maybe we can at least get a couple of days to look at. Christie, is this the regular deposit? The 123,000 is, that was
So-
taxes.
Right, is there gonna be any, if possibly penalties or things like that coming up later for people that pay late?
Normally, what is it, March, April, May timeframe, like
Okay.
small checks,
Okay, that's what I'm
maybe 20,000 here. Yeah. So we usually still receive money until that May timeframe. And then after that, it kind of just goes to like 1,000, 2,000.
Gotcha.
I'm interested in returning at the maintenance.
In a minute.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's for.
Well, and what's so bad is the way the rules are written on all that stuff, you can't, unless you invested in T-bills or the holes. Yeah, you know, because of the security issues.
The money market with Texas National Bank, or Texas, whatever it's called, is, percentage earned is 0.25%.
But with your connections, we could shop around. I'm sure they're the same way.
Yeah. So there's, it's,
The only big difference between us and you is percentage.
And the CD at Security State Bank is 0.65.
So is everybody happy with the treasurer's report?
yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
So can I get a motion?
I'm
please?
gonna let you do it.
I motion that the treasurer.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
You crack me up.
Easy group today. Well, George. I mean, Pat.
I can change that.
George is,
I think we're at the point to where it's Pat's report.
Got it.
yeah. George is in Alabama, I think, on a family emergency.
Oh,
Been gone for several days now. But I don't know what it was, I just know it's a family emergency. But having said that, January was dang near the same as December. I think in December we had 204, January we had 202. Response times were good, shoot times were good. I noticed there was a couple of incidences, I think if you notice over on the right, requested 5 on mutual aid and gave 5.
uh-huh,
3 of the mutual aid actually came from our own company,
right.
but 2 other times we had to depend on Lytle to come cover. And I think all the 5 that we provided was to Lytle. So
Oh, okay.
while we were helping them, they were helping us.
Well, that's good. That's where you want it to be.
Yeah. Our overall response time was still, again, within contract, 6.7 minutes, which is pretty good. 0 to 5 at 48%, 6 to 9 at 39%, with 13% at 10 plus. when I look at, I don't know if you guys know this, but we recently invested in some newer software on tracking. So I actually can track my trucks live now instead of looking at historical data. So it's made it a lot easier for me to track the real time on the report. And I'd also like to make you aware that I got a phone call from the Sheriff's Department. They are working on, I don't want to mess this up, but providing us, EMS and fire, with their CAD system. And I got a call the other day, wanted to know how many units we had, and both here in ESD1.
Right.
So they're actually moving forward with a plan to implement that. The new CAD system will give us the ability, I mean, I can track my trucks right now.
Right.
But the dispatcher can't.
Right.
And that's the problem. So with them allowing us to be on their CAD system, they can actually see where our truck is at. They can actually plot point A to point B. And so I'm hoping, because their CAD system's better than Google and these other things, that we should see an improvement in finding these private roads that aren't marked. And so, because now we won't have to worry. We could look at the CAD, it says, here's where you are, here's where you need to go. And Google's 95% correct, but when you hit that other 4 or 5%, sends you in the wrong direction. So that's good news coming forward. Again, I tracked most all the times, mainly the ones that were out of sequence, and found out that we were actually good. There was one in here that concerned me. It was a 48-minute response.
I saw that.
And all of our units were out, and Hondo couldn't provide mutual aid, Lytle couldn't provide mutual aid, and Casterville could not provide mutual aid. That's how busy everybody was when all that came down the pike. And I think we popped 3 calls all within 15 minutes. And then 4 and 5 came another 10 minutes later. So we had a truck already en route down here once we went to 2 trucks going out at the same time. But again, they had to come out of San Antonio and make the call.
Right.
We called for mutual aid because we were hoping somebody would be closer. That wasn't there. So fortunately, in this particular call, was what we call code 3, non-emergent. So everything worked out. But that's what happened on that one. More calls than we could handle. And apparently Hondo and everybody else was just as busy. And that's a busy day. Total calls in the city of Devine was 67. Had a 4.9 minute response time in that. A little bit up, no, actually about the same as last month. I think maybe a little lower. Still at 94% at 0 to 9, and only 6% at 10 over. On the back page, I did a breakdown for Natalia because we post there.
Yeah.
And so you can see, instead of just clumping that in with the county, so we had 34 calls in the city limits of Natalia with 5.3 minute response time. Not as good as I'd like it to be, but again, it's one of those things that when are you going out in the middle of the night? So we're coming from Devine. Some of the calls were delayed because we were already coming back from other calls. And then some of the calls, we were actually making 2 calls into town, and the other unit was already en route, so we had to come from Devine anyway. So those things I have no control over.
Right.
But still, having said that, because we have that unit in Natalia, I think that number would be a whole lot higher if we didn't have that unit parked there. So it still helps a lot, because we're not just doing the city limits in Natalia, we're doing all the district between Natalia and Lytle and the surrounding communities. So that is a big helper. But other than that, the month seemed normal, other than January. COVID calls were
I was getting
minimal.
ready to ask if you'd seen an uptick in that.
No, actually, we saw more COVID calls in December and less in January. We still get them, but the numbers are not high. They're not concerning. And then the folks that we are getting with COVID, we haven't personally experienced any patients with serious signs and symptoms. Everybody's been just, I'm sick, and they found out they have COVID, but they're not on vent,
Right.
or being put on a vent.
Getting ready to be.
So outside of that, we were notified recently from the County Emergency Management Coordinator. They're putting together a special task force. Apparently there's some concern about the eclipse that's coming in 23-24, and somehow they're anticipating that being a problem. I don't know what that is, but we've been invited to participate in the task force, and I sent a response
Well,
back.
a lot of the stuff that I've seen on that is the influx of the number of people that are going to be in the area is going to drive.
That's crazy. So we're already starting to lay plans for that, to prepare. Even though it's way out, we want to be ready. So,
'Cause they're planning it all the way to Uvalde.
yeah.
So.
I thought maybe they thought the lights were going to go out or something.
No. It's just the number.
They
of
expect
people.
that many more people?
Thousands.
Is it gonna be like
You
Close
can't-
Encounters of the Third Kind, where
Yeah,
you've got
that's it.
people in
We'll
bands
have the
just...
music.
So anyway, outside of that, is there any questions about the report? Anything else you guys?
From my standpoint, I guess,
I'm sorry?
I've never seen the contract, so I guess I'm sort of wondering, what are we truly evaluating? So I know you give us this.
The contract, and I can speak to this because it's been around since it started, unless you want to speak to it, sir. Requires that we have units here, and they're dedicated units. So what that means is when you contract with a private company of any kind, a lot of the companies don't want a dedicated unit. So you can have a unit sitting here and then leave and go into, say, San Antonio, and then that unit may not come back because it can be used in San Antonio for other calls. The contract that the ESD board has with our company is contracted units, so it responds to calls here. It leads to transport, but we bring those units back to this station. So those guys know the area, so you don't have all these strangers every day. You're going to get some every now and then, but not every single day. The other thing I think that the contract, at the top of my head, was that the response time somewhere around 9 to 10 minutes for your average call. And so that's why we report these response times. So the concern would be, obviously, are we here? And then are we making the calls?
So getting to that, so the contract says response time in a certain amount of time.
Average,
How average?
yes.
So when we get the calls that are zeros, how do we, I guess, why would we include them into the response time if it's a cancellation or things like that? Because it seems like it's going to drive down that average response time.
Well, it works in both directions, right? I also include the oddballs. So like 48 minutes, right? That's not an average,
Well, it goes into the average.
but so does the zero.
But that's what I'm saying. So how do we make a distinction between a call that we never drive out to versus, and I'm trying to understand that dynamic to say,
Let me
why is it included?
I think what you're getting at is, if you'll allow me to just make an assumption here.
Yeah.
In the beginning days, because the assumption is that our ESD radius is about 8 miles in any direction, right? So the thought process back in the day was, well, If it's 8 miles, we ought to be able to get there in 9 minutes, right? 9 to 10 minutes. Makes sense, except that's not the way the roads work. So how do we track an average response time? How do we, the concern was, is the service providing responsive to the calls? So when the tones go out, are we at lunch and staying at lunch and not going? I mean, that would be your worst nightmare, obviously. Are we waiting for the, you know what I mean? Are we responsive to the calls that come in? So that's why we track shoot time. So when a call comes in, how long does it take you to get out of the building? And the average fire service gives fire departments 3 minutes to get out of a building, right? We do 2 because we don't have to put on bunker gear, so we cut it a minute. So we try to be out of the building within 2 minutes.
So is that in this number or is it not in this?
It's in that number. So my response time is from the time from the time that I'm notified. What I give you is from the time my dispatcher or the county dispatcher notifies us of the call, the clock starts. So if I'm from here to your house, as an example, I've got 9 minutes, counting the time to get out of the station, which is pretty strict when you consider the roads don't work the way the crow flies.
Correct.
So, I mean, if what you don't see, but what I see when I look at these runs is that the average, maybe what you might want to do in the future, if you're just curious, is how many miles is that? Because when you look at 202 calls, I could make 202 calls to Super S. What does that mean, right? That's a 0 response time, if you will. But it's miles that's taking time. So are we getting to all the miles within a reasonable amount of time? And my opinion after doing this for 45 years is it's the best time ever. And nobody else in the county beats it.
So when we look at this report, it has assigned, acknowledged, and route at scene. You're saying the assigned time is the first, is the dispatcher making the call to us?
Yes.
The acknowledged is the difference between the assigned and acknowledged.
Now let's say
time?
when the dispatcher notifies us, and when that truck rolls its tires, that's shoot time.
That's en route?
Huh?
So is that en route or?
Yeah, en route.
En route. Now, when I track for you guys, when I go back and look at those times, I start the time at dispatch to the time that we arrive. I don't look at shoot times unless the arrival time is slow. If the arrival time is slow, I'll go back on the GPS and find out where my guy's out of the shoot. But when I look and let's say the response time is 10 minutes, but it's an 11-minute travel response, and they made it in 10, then I know they weren't sitting in the station waiting to get there. They went probably driving illegally down the highway, if anything. But so it's difficult to track. Now, one of the nice things that's going to happen with this new CAD system with the county is probably for the first time in the history of any department in Medina County is going to actually have real times. Because what we don't know right now is if you call 911, I don't know how many minutes pass
Between that and
before
the call out.
before you call me. I have no clue. Plus, the dispatcher doesn't know if the radios aren't working right when I leave the station. And quite honestly, we're not their highest priority because they're doing sheriff and all this other nonsense, or requirements. So now with the new CAD system, we should be able to see the same. Well, the dispatch time that they dispatch is not going to change. We'll never know what time the call came in versus what time we received the dispatch. But we'll always know what time we received the dispatch, and we'll always know what time we got on scene, without question.
So I guess I'm still a little confused where the shoot time came in, because the dispatch comes in, and which one of those is
I'm sorry.
on this report?
Okay, if you looked at assigned, right?
Uh-huh,
That's when dispatch assigned it to the unit.
okay.
Then my unit will say, hey, I acknowledge the call, right? Because, I mean, you got to get up and run to the radio to do that. So it's all computerized, so who knows how that works. And then en route is when they claim, dispatch posts them being en route.
So the difference between assigned and en route is your shoot time.
And it could be. The problem is that dispatch has no way of knowing when the wheels are rolling. So what happens when dispatch calls you, it's me, it says, Patrick, you need to go to Super S or whatever, right? Okay, I'm en route. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm moving. I'm just acknowledging affirmative to the call. The only way I'm going to really know when they're en route is by looking at my GPS.
But the response time, I guess, taking all that into account, is still the time between we get the dispatch and the time we arrive at.
That's right. When I get to the house,
Okay.
because that's the time that we're the most concerned. Because in all honesty, it's important how long you get out of the house. Don't get me wrong, but more importantly is how long did it take you to get to the scene. Because I can go down here on a call, get out of the station in a minute and a half, but if I get to the railroad tracks and there's a train and I'm delayed,
It takes longer.
now it's going to take me longer. If it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I've got to worry about traffic. It's going to slow my unit down. We have to abide by the same laws that everybody else does. We have to stop at stop signs. We have to stop at red lights. We have to do all that stuff. The law does not allow us to run those things.
So in this proposal, the 4 criteria is response time, patient satisfaction, staffing compliance, equipment compliance. How do we know patient satisfaction? Do we do any surveys or after the fact?
I'm sorry?
After the fact data gathering of the customers we service to see satisfaction? Or
Well, I think the only
based on
way the board can
complaint?
gauge that is, do you get phone calls? To be honest with you. How else are you going to gauge that?
Well, surveys.
I'm sorry?
Surveys.
Y'all do a survey?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm asking. I mean, how do we know? I mean, other
Does
than
Allegiance have surveys, patient surveys for them to fill out?
No.
That's what it's asking.
But trust me, if they have a complaint, they call me.
sometimes.
I'm sorry?
Sometimes.
But how are you going to know?
Well, again, that's the conversation piece. So, as we get bigger, as everything grows around us, how do we continue to make sure that we're providing great service?
I think a survey is quite appropriate. In fact, and I'm not saying this because you brought it up, but I've already had that conversation with my boss, and we've trying to figure out a way, because anytime you start doing stuff like that, anybody that does surveys will tell you that if you don't do it right, you're not going to get any response whatsoever. So we thought about doing like a little card that you leave with the patient, fill it out and mail it in. But if you look at statistics, that gets you about a 6% response, which is not good enough. So we're going to try this year, and I'm not sure how successful it's going to be, is when those patients that can talk to us and are willing to give us their email, that we email them an opportunity to respond back. I mean, that's the only other way that we know they're not happy is if they call me. And then I just have to evaluate, what's the validity of the complaint, because no matter what business you're in, you're going to get complaints.
What you could do is have, whenever you're going on these calls, leave a card or with what is that little thing called that you
QR
scan? A QR code
Right.
on it. And just leave it there. When they get back, they can fill it out.
I'm sorry?
Leave it at their house at their residence where you pick them up. And when they get back, they can fill it out. Either with their, with their phone, or fill it out actually on the card.
Yeah, I mean, we could try that. I'm just not quite. I mean, yeah. You have to tell me how that works. A QR code, just a little app or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Get your camera, point it to it, and it'll take you to a website where you fill it out.
Cool. Huh?
Google has it.
We had one of the seminars we went to, they were talking about this same subject, and Daniel, the year, was doing it. And he said they decided to, start checking these things, and they found out that firefighters are mean.
Firefighters are what?
Mean.
Are mean?
Found out that, I'm sorry.
I have to be careful what I
They
say.
complained that they
Okay?
were grumpy.
Firefighters are mean.
I just want to be careful what I say. And the reason I say that is that in cases where there's emergencies, people are, my history, and anybody else been in this business a long period of time will tell you that it's the worst, in some cases, it's the worst day of their lives. Mm-hmm. And you could be Jesus Christ and show up and they're still not going to be happy. But at the end of the day, when I get back with people that are disgruntled, if I get a disgruntled call, and I do follow up with every single call I ever get, and visit, I don't just call on the phone, I actually come and visit your home and sit down with you and talk about what happened and what, if there's a problem. I'll give you an example, although I won't use any names. I had a lady call me because the family was distraught. The guy showed up at the call. The woman had trauma, and so trauma medication was used, and it's the kind of medication that makes you go crazy, and it scared the family to death. So I got a complaint. So I went and visited with the family, and I sat down with them and explained to them what the medication was, and that was one of the side effects that one would expect if you were on the medical side. Now, at the moment, it would have made perfectly good sense for the medic to say, oh, this is what's going to happen. But when you have a patient screaming in pain, you really don't have time to be warm and fuzzy. So those kinds of things that we typically see and have to deal with. But outside of that, I will be honest with you, of the 202 calls that we did last month, I got one phone call from one patient. So, I mean, I gauge it by that right now. But outside of that, we have been looking at trying to come up with something. We looked at SurveyMonkey, but then again, too, you have to know where your audience is at.
And don't get me wrong, it's just as important, I think, for us to be able to establish great service
Yes.
to our community.
Yes.
As much as it is to make sure we are giving good service and catching the concerns our community has. So, we can promote ourselves in a manner of, look, our community evaluation of us and our services.
I would welcome it. I would love to have something.
5 stars.
I would love to have
That's a selling
something
point for us
to do that.
to say we're doing great things.
I mean, like I said, we've had conversations, but just haven't come up with a simple solution. Because we've thought about cards, we've thought about all this, but I never thought about a QR code. But if that works, we'd be more than happy to do it.
And just leave it in the house.
Huh?
And just leave it in the residence, because then when they come back and they're well and they reflect, I mean, we're going to get, it's going to be both ways. It's going to be bad, it's going to be good. I call it honestly, I'm never afraid of any response. I welcome it. If you're not happy, I want to know about it. If you're happy, I want to know that too.
Well, and all too often, the only time you hear something is when it's bad.
Or perceived. You're always too slow when it's a loved one that's hurt. But when you choose to live 18 miles away from an ambulance station, what do you say to somebody? You know what I mean? It's like,
up a hill when there's an ice storm.
If it was up to me and we had a station next to your house, it'd be great, but that's not my decision. You know,
Those are my questions.
and I'm not even sure it's a decision, it's anybody's, you know what I mean? But thank you for asking, and if y'all want us to move forward with that, we'd be happy to do
She's
that.
gonna let you take that one out.
Can I have a piece of paper?
Well, one or two.
Just one. Alright.
We need to approve this or just,
No,
information,
it's
right?
not, it's not an
Just
action.
information.
I hope I was
No, yeah.
helpful
Again,
and
it's
not.
conversation piece. I mean,
Thank
like
you.
I said, you go to training.
Yeah.
Hear different things.
Yeah,
Go
that's-
back and say,
You
well,
bring it to the
I've never
table.
heard that conversation because
Yeah.
I'm newer.
Yeah.
You know, these guys have been here a little longer. So
Well, I'm glad you
I'm
asked.
trying to educate
I'm glad you
myself
asked.
along the way.
We're all learning, I promise you.
It never stops.
I went through ESD 101 again for the third time, and I still learned something new. So, we're all learning. So no more questions for him? So I was approached by Divine Fire Chief, and they are going to try to get sales tax revenue.
Try to get what?
Sales tax revenue,
Oh.
and it's on the ballot in May, so the window is really tight. But anyway, he would like us, he was going to talk to his board, but he would like for us and the ESD2 board and ESD 5 to split that or share that revenue.
What's the allowable tax?
2 cents.
2 cents.
2 cents on this side and 2 cents on that side.
And the thing is that we have to pay for the election.
We have to-
All three of us would pay for the election. And so it turns out to be a win for them and a win for us. And still, we can relieve some of the burden on property owners by supplementing it with, even though our tax rate is excellent, if we could keep the property tax in that status and still grow and using the other revenue. Everybody that I've talked to that has gotten it said that everybody ordered the comptroller's survey, and it's way low because of all the Amazon stuff, Amazon, eBay, all the online
All
stuff.
the deliveries.
Yeah.
Oh, that means I have to start paying that?
So anyway, like I
So
said,
is that an election just, so that's in a Medina County election, right?
well, it's going to be in this area, yes.
So just Divine, Natalia?
Divine Natalia, and
So our district only?
yes. It's in the area where you're trying to achieve the sales tax.
And it's already taken out, it's already done. The vote is to just say, yeah, we can let them have it instead of the comptroller, and then it'd be doled out somewhere else in the state.
So it's part of the 865% tax rate that's already the state max?
Right, right.
So it's not increasing somebody's tax rate, it's taking a portion of the state's? Oh, okay, then yeah.
So it's, from what we're understanding, talking to Greg and talking to Elizabeth, Divine side gets 2 cents, Natalia would get 2 cents, so then it would be divided into it. So they'd get 1 cent, they would get 1 cent, but ESD number 4 would get the 2 cents because we're splitting it with them.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not increasing tax.
And then the other thing is that now you're affecting people passing through
Yeah, you're picking up.
that have been freeloading off of the system because the taxpayers are who's sponsoring it. So,
It'd be emergency services, yeah.
yeah, it kind of evens up y'all think?
Yeah, again, if we're not raising the tax rate, it's just coming out of the state's portion. Yeah.
It can't, I don't think anything bad could come of it.
Yeah, it's a win-win, like,
It's for the entire,
but we had, you know, we're a board, so we have to sit here and discuss things and make sure that we're all in agreement. We all have different ideas, and I like the fact that we have the lowest tax rate. I like the fact that our due diligence is done.
So if it's coming out of the state's coffers, why do we need an election?
So it's be approved by the public.
But if it's already part of the state's taxes.
I think you have to get voted for us to receive it. So we have to get approved. I think there's Greg and them have done their research and then we're talking to Elizabeth. Elizabeth has done her research, and apparently because for us to request it, to give it to us, to provide the services, there has to be a formal election.
We can't
to go
just-
to the state.
There-
and ask for
we
it.
can't just call the comptroller and say, hey, let me have this. It has to go through because it's the people's money, it's their tax that they paid. They have to say where it goes.
So, am I
So right now it
correct
sits in the
that
bank
Viola was
somewhere,
taking
right?
care of taking
Well,
care
yeah,
of
I
this?
guess, yeah.
She wanted it, and won't be me standing her way.
Yeah, so Viola will be in contact with ESD number 2 and ESD number 5 and report back to this board. Because she's the one
But
that
this is
attended
mainly
this.
so that we move forward on it. to make
Is this
that-
an action item?
Yeah, we review and discuss. To me, it's really to the property owners and anything we can do to keep that from,
Going up. Mm-hmm.
and, you know, inflation is the beast, and then growth is the other beast, so.
Well, I will make a motion
Okay,
that we allow Viola to go to and discuss this with ESD 5 and ESD 2 and report back and move forward with this.
yeah, 'cause I don't
Sales
know
tax election.
what the amount of the election cost is, but if we get it passed, it'll definitely
If we
offset.
all, if
It'll
we
be a
all
special
share it,
election.
it'll be,
Ooh.
Yeah,
Apparently it has
That's
to
what
be-
I'm trying to clarify, because that communication to our communities, making sure they understand it's not a tax rate increase.
actually, yeah, it's not an increase, it's an actual, it
So-
can end up, it,
Allocation of funds.
but the way it's gonna be written
Yeah.
is set in stone. And then that, reading that looks like we're allocating another tax, and it's not. And it can't be any other way. It has to be that way. That's why we need to educate the public on what this really is, because it's messed
And
up.
I believe we just need to submit it to the county and then we can start advertising it, because I think the election's not until what?
Did you
30th
see the
of
way-
May?
Mhm.
right,
Yes.
in May.
Did you see the way
Six.
ESD 3 did theirs?
May.
Several years
other
ago?
elections, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, it's
yes.
May 6th.
I know it didn't get passed.
The election.
Huh?
It didn't get passed, I know that. Because they don't collect sales tax in Ohio. It didn't pass. But I don't know how they read it.
They got something passed. I can't remember what it was. I
But
just-
most of ESD number 2, from what we're understanding with reviewing, they've done most of the legwork with Beth, or Elizabeth from District 5. So we are just gonna join in with it and split the cost by 3, from what I'm understanding.
So we got a motion on the table.
So,
We're gonna have to do some education, and in March, we're gonna be in the on it.
do you know
So
how
that's-
we got this ESD
We'll
started?
do the same thing.
Pat and I going to town hall meetings and shaking hands and talking to people, and Steve Lopez and everybody, because,
And it passed with flying colors. It really did. It was amazing.
First time through, yeah.
Yep.
And so I don't have a problem with talking to people and explaining.
I will reach out to the world if you want me to.
I second
I have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
the motion.
Passes unanimous. So we're going to go into executive session, but we can't. We don't have enough. We don't have the people we need for it. So I want to
Make a motion to postpone.
postpone it till the next regular meeting.
Viola cannot make it next week because she's going on a
But we won't have to do one next week.
cruise with that her mom was supposed to go on with her, so she's still going. So,
Yeah. Is she gonna go? She gonna be here for the February meeting?
We're in February. Can you mark me?
Oh, the March meeting. Excuse me. I'm going by
Yeah, I know.
the
I saw that.
agenda
Hey,
that my
you know what?
coordinator sent me.
That was as quick as I could get it in on Friday.
From conference.
I don't know, but she asked if she could speak, but we would have to go into executive session.
Okay, okay.
In March,
No, now,
right now.
right now.
She's here?
No, she wants me to call her.
Oh,
You're
okay.
gonna step outside to speak with her, so we're gonna go into executive session, and then you can come back in here and say what you have to say, but, because it's only you two talking, not the rest of us.
Oh, okay.
She has a question for you.
Okay, so
you'll
call her?
call her, yes.
Okay.
Because I don't know the answer. I'm not a board member, so I don't know the
I'll be back.
Oh, you're gonna do it?
answer. He's gonna go out and ask her that question
Oh.
first, and then he'll come back in here and determine whether or not we're going into executive session.
So it's not gonna be postponed,
If
if he can reach her?
Yes.
Yeah. Man, I got confused.
I'm confused. So if that makes you feel better. But she's asking me questions. I'm like, I don't know the answers. You need to talk to the president.
Are you the finance guy for the school?
I don't know a lot about cruise.
What is your title? Business manager or financial officer? Or?
Assistant superintendent.
Oh.
That big time.
Now let me ask you another question, because I have to ask these silly questions. Were you a school teacher before? Oh, so you're a business guy. Okay.
By degree.
There's a connection. You guys are growing exponentially.
Can you stop raising my taxes, please?
No.
I don't have any
I
children that go to your
don't know
school.
why. See, y'all have it all. See, just that conversation you want to have with our community, you guys aren't even paying attention about school districts. We've lowered taxes since 2019. We've been compressing tax rates.
Well, I know last year was
We
like
do-
1.5.
We do not control valuations. That is what
That
the
is
taxes
that
are.
is a
It's not the tax rate. If you go back, look at
the
the tax rates over the last 4
the
years.
legislature set
1.5.
that system up perfectly so that the citizenry basically have their mouths taped shut because there's no recourse. It's the strangest law I've ever read. But if I was the guy, if I was the king, I would have wrote it the same way.
Well, so,
Oh.
so this is the thing. So the way the state has it written is your appraisal district, it's its own body.
Right.
They don't take any direction from a school district. But yet, the state holds the appraisal district accountable to meet a state expectation of how much they raise appraisals. And if the appraisal district fails to meet that state standard, then the school district is punished by reducing their revenue from the state.
Gotcha. But what is
Dang.
what is the highest that the ISDs can go? Are you guys max like what we are?
Well, now, because again, we've been compressing, there's actual laws where everybody's a little different because it's based on your property wealth.
Gotcha.
So Medina Valley's property wealthy, so we're compressed to the lowest rate possible. Now that's your M&O. Your INS is a 50-cent maximum. Right now we're at 47,298 or something like that. So, but
Makes sense.
But it is
Makes
your
sense.
valuation, which the state mandates they increase it every year.
That they do? Yeah.
By the state average. So if the state average is 30% and our fiscal district doesn't do that, then we're penalized.
That's interesting.
That is crazy.
And if the state would fund new facilities, then we wouldn't have to tax as much. But instead, we gotta tax our community to build new buildings, and if you grow as fast as we do, we need new
Yeah,
campuses.
it is growing up there. That I would admit.
Can't just put them on the street.
Because when I first started there, our high school and the junior high used to be right next to each other where the junior high is at right now.
You know, I don't think the forefathers ever anticipated the human race to get this big.
Probably not.
I'm convinced of it. But you know, it's all perception, because when you stop and think about how our grandparents felt when the government was trying to get to the moon, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And school districts were being formed and cities were being incorporated, and it was probably like, for the first time in their lives, somebody had actually told them where they could put their water lines, or whether they could or could not have sewage. I mean, that's a massive change. Yeah.
Starting mandating.
If you made $4,000 a year, you were rich. Now $4,000 a year
with the
is
voicemail and
chump
the
right
send her a text message.
Okay, well, she's the one that called it, so it's up to you.
Well, we'll do it next meeting.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Sir?
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
I just don't. Okay, so the next meeting is March the...
7.
Yeah,
That's why.
it works.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you're gonna need to post
Several
it.
meetings ago,
Uh-huh.
we had a conversation about the report time frame.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if we ever came to any conclusion about the dates. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is, luckily, I mean, we haven't had any real problems with the timing.
But when had this been next year, the first,
Yeah, I mean, it will repeat itself.
it'd be
And
a while for it, but yeah. There's gonna be instances where it's a day or two or the next
Yeah.
day.
so I just couldn't remember, because I was doing the report and I'm thinking like, well, am I supposed to go from the 1st to the 31st? Am I supposed to go from the 1st to the 15th? I couldn't remember.
I thought we said the 15th to the 15th.
Yeah, 15th to the
15th
15th.
to 15th.
I thought that's what we said, guys.
So, do we wanna go ahead and get that started at the next meeting?
Yeah.
It would make it, I could be more, and again too, I don't want to mislead by anything. In my world, if I can cut, like when I do the total time, by the total number of runs, I can go back and actually now track, and if I can cut a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, they're actual, because I don't get that data now, because of the way the reporting system works. I'm counting on information to come from the county that I don't get, I've never gotten. So I get what I get from my dispatcher. So how much time lags between the time the county, you know what I'm saying? So I foresee a great opportunity coming with this offer that the Sheriff's Department's making with this new tracking system to actually give us really, really, really well-defined
Precise data.
reporting, which we've never been able to. I mean, we're talking about down to the second, if you will. Because I want to give you everything you want
How are you gonna
and
do
however
that?
you want it.
If you're going from the 15th to the 15th, so that means he's not gonna have a report ready for us when we have our meeting.
Yeah, there'd be a month lag.
Mhm.
Or we can backdate it so he'd do the 15th of January to the 15th of February.
Well, we've already gotten, you'd only have to do the 50, up to the 15th of February.
So next
Every
March
one.
meeting would only be from the 1st to the 15th, yeah. So that way we get back on track.
Right. Y'all good with that?
Yeah.
This isn't a kingdom, I depend on y'all.
I was
I
sitting
thought
here
we-
thinking about it, I was like, how is he gonna do that? Because the report's not gonna be ready by the meeting. I was like,
Yeah, the next report, all we'll see is from the 1st of February to the 15th of February. And then the next one will be on the
What is your next meeting is on what date?
7th.
Which I can get all of February, and that's not a problem. I can make that happen.
But there's gonna have to be a cutoff point.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
We're
some
still
point.
gonna need,
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna, at some point, it's gonna come up that
Yeah.
first Tuesday's a Monday.
Right.
I mean, is
Yeah.
meeting.
so yeah, if we start.
So if you want me to
Tuesday-
start next month, I can start that next month. Whatever y'all desire
So
is.
if we do
I just wanna make-
March
I wanna give you what
reports
you want.
from 2/1 to 2/15 for March. And
Uh-huh.
then April's would be February 15th through March 15th would be April's. and
Or
then
did
we'd
you
be
want
on
to
track
start as 16th?
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
Like pay periods?
so we don't. yeah.
Exactly.
So March EMS report would be 2/1 through 2/15.
Okay.
And then April's would be 2/16 through 3/15.
Okay.
And that way then we can just get on track the way we
Great. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna try to make everybody jump through hoops.
I wanted to have to, I thought it would be fun. Interesting.
I just don't like to. When it's like end of the month is one day, and then I have to have it ready the next day, and it doesn't give me the time to go back and track those incidences where I know they're wrong, but I want to give you the right data.
Exactly. And if we can get the correct data, it makes life so much better anyway,
Right.
So we'll go with that.
Okay.
And just exactly what the next report's gonna be
Make
to 2/15, and then April will be 16 to the 15th
Okay.
of March, so.
And I'll communicate with Christy, make sure
No, that's. So how'd you like conference?
that's good.
Did you learn anything?
I hope I showed that.
You learned to ask questions. That's an important factor right there. How about you, Miss Shelley?
Oh, I learned a whole lot.
It's a lot easier when you go the second time, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can't
Poor
wait.
George.
But I think he had a good time. He learned a lot too.
No,
Well, and you know, the thing that's so good about that whole environment is you're with like people, and you can tell all the old firefighters that hurt the most first. Right? Because they couldn't have one that big when they were working. But yeah, no, it's always good. And I even took a class that I had taken. I did beta testing on it, and they were talking about it. It's pipeline safety for first responders.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the coordinator for the LCPC demanded that I go through the course, and it's going to get incorporated into firefighter training.
Should
Yeah.
make sense.
Oh yeah, because it's a different animal, and if you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
people are killed real quick. But anyway, I told the instructor that I did help with the beta testing, and he says, "Michelle drafted you, huh?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "She got done in 3 months. I told her she could have 6 months to do it. She got it done in 3 months, and I was expected to have it done in a year." She said, "It sure made me look good." But she's a go-getter and very dynamic person, so it helps. And she worked for Solterra Solutions, and they're data processing anyway. So getting the programming done wasn't an issue. It was getting it tested. And then plus when you took the course, at the end of it, you filled out a critique and then put suggestions or things that were wrong, and all that stuff within a month was incorporated into the class.
Well,
So anyway,
So
that
did-
was
Did we get our bank squared away? Everything done?
Everybody should have signed it, except for Bob.
what about the fees that were charged to all of our personal credit cards?
I got invoices saying that they
Reverse.
reversed it and they're sending us a check. Because it's supposed to be a refund.
Are they sending a check?
They're sending a check to each one of you, so you're gonna have to sign it over.
A check? They were so against that. Good, that sounds good.
Yeah, the lady, Alyssa, whatever her name is, was not happy with me at all on Monday. Not at all. I was like, first of all, you're refunding when it was a company check. 2, you're charging the individual people that are in the room, not giving them a credit, you charge their accounts. She's like, no ma'am, I didn't know. Yes, you did. I have proof right here. So yeah. So she sent me all the receipts today. So everybody they're sending it to you specifically because it was your name on the room. So you just have to sign it over
back to the ESD.
back to the
Oh,
ESD.
Because
okay.
it was ESD's money.
Right, but I got charged a $100 incidental fee.
That will come off after 3 days.
Okay, and then I got charged $250.
But that was all showing pending, right?
No,
Yeah, you may wanna check.
what I sent you was, it charged our credit card $250. So if they send me a check and I've signed it over to
So
you,
you got charged $100 for incentive.
Mhm.
The $150 is coming back off of yours, and they're saying a check. It was supposed to be a refund to the ESD, not a charge. That's what I'm saying. So yes, it's $250, but it's 2 different charges.
yes.
So the $150 is coming back to the ESD that they're sending, so you should have a credit to even it out, and then
So
they're
that
refunding
checks,
us.
okay, so I'm
But the
getting that.
$100 will come off after 3 days.
Okay, gotcha.
Or at least that's what she
Why
told
did
me.
I think it was 250? I don't know. I guess because I put them together.
Anybody got anything else?
If you don't see it come off after 3 days, let me know, and then I'll just call the lady back.
Motion to
Yeah,
adjourn?
did we get the shower fixed upstairs, Patrick?
I'm sorry?
Did we get the shower fixed upstairs, in the men's room?
Not yet.
The plumbing guy said he came here. I even got a bill.
I may not have been here, but I don't think he's done any work.
All he did was unclog it.
I'm sorry?
He unclogged it. It
Oh,
was clogged.
well, great. So we can start using the shower again?
Should be able to.
Thank you.
I
didn't know, I wasn't here.
I'll verify tomorrow because he
Okay.
sent me a bill via email.
Okay.
And it said today.
I'll wait to hear from you before I let him turn the
I
water
did call
back
the
on.
plumber.
Oh,
I promise you I did.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Because he
I'm
was
sure-
supposed to be here one day, and I called Pat and I said he's supposed to be here, and then he had to reschedule because he was late on another call. And I was like, okay, so he rescheduled for the following day, and then when I talked to him, because I was trying to get a bill from him and Ty for today's meeting, and he's like, and so he sent it today.
My guys did say a plumber came. Absolutely. But they couldn't tell me what he did. And then I just forgot. My bad.
Nobody wants to watch the plumber stop in the rain.
I wasn't here, but they were here.
Yeah, he said he went up there, it was clogged apparently.
Yeah, I forgot.
You don't want to know what it was clogged with.
Sorry.
That's okay, you're good. So do we want to start talking about getting the,
Spray foam?
It's on the next month's agenda.
okay,
Yeah, because we're gonna,
There's,
come into March, it's,
we're gonna have the bay repairs, the engineer, talking about the engineer, about the property that
Mhm.
we're looking at, and then the supply closet are on the agenda for next month.
You're
sounds
going
good.
to property?
Natalia.
Oh. Awesome.
Well, the thing is that with the Microsoft deal, property values are gonna go out of this world. And if we
Plus
can
that.
get in before that happens.
That new truck stops being put in, plus that new factory,
It's right there next to,
the dollar
General.
store.
On the other
Yeah, that's gonna be huge.
So the thing, well, no.
No, the other, on the property we're looking at is on the other side of Dollar
Okay.
General.
Yeah.
So we're a minute one direction, a minute the other direction. And, you know, a trip to Twin Lakes is,
This is
3 minutes.
exciting. This
So-
is exciting.
yeah, well, and you know, the thing is that you showing that the skew in the Natalia times helps substantiate that. If they're paying the same tax rate that everybody else is, and so we need
Oh, absolutely.
to, we need to make sure that this isn't dividing EMS anymore.
I really, there's a long history of that feeling that we should have been there all along. And I'm not talking about the ESD, but the city as well, when it first got started, because the Natalia area contributed a lot of money in the beginning.
Oh, I'm sure.
So we're excited because I got to tell you, it's when you're on the unit, you want to get there as quickly as you can, and the quicker I get there, the better everybody is, and the less dangerous it is, because people, all of us, you know, every second is an eternity if you're the one waiting on that truck to come. And I know that we had an event, and y'all are all aware of it, at the school. Fire department's right next door. I mean, literally across the field. And the first thing they asked when they got there was, "What took you so long?" That's how it works. That's
Oh,
how-
yeah, no, you wouldn't.
And I get that, because I'm the same way. If someone I love is hurting, and I call for help, you really want it right now, not in 30 seconds or 30 minutes or 10 minutes or 8 minutes. It's never fast enough. So putting the truck in Natalia has been wonderful for everybody in that whole area.
Well, like I said, I'm afraid that property values are going.
Well, I will say this: I live in Natalia, and the value of my home in Natalia is nothing compared to what it would be if it was in Devine. And I even had my insurance guy is the one that told me that. He said, if you moved your house to Devine, the appraisal on your house would almost double, triple. But it's just where I'm at, and I'm going like, I guess I should be happy. Since it lowers my taxes, but
Yeah.
but when I go to sell it, I'm going to have to deal with
High
that.
values are nice, except when you're getting taxed.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be adjourned.
I'll make a
Oh,
thank
motion,
y'all.
we adjourn.
You want it?
Mm-hmm.
No, I have one. I just need one right now.
But I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Guys, thank you,
Adjourned at 20:35.
and I will work on that survey thing.